Well, I feel like every time we introduce this man, history is being made, but it's for good reason, as this weekend, Brad Riddell, Carlos Ulberg, Dan Hooker, and Israel Adesanya step into one of the most historic arenas in the world for another takeover of epic proportions. You know this man from creating one of the most impressive, one of the most iconic teams out there in the world today, representing New Zealand City Kickboxing. Eugene Bareman joining us from the NYC Barracks. Would that be a good way to describe where you guys are staying, Huge, today on Submission Radio? Welcome to the program, man.
Yeah. Thanks for the introduction, guys. It's definitely a bit of a commune that we're staying.
How's it been? How's it been staying there so far? I was watching Megan Anderson chatting to you guys, all the CKB boys. It was a hilarious moment where it came time to who's the messiest. And then you and Israel go back and forth, mentioning about like the pissing on the seat. What's it been like living together for at X Mansion, so to speak?
Yeah, look, that's like a 16-room mansion, and it takes you 5 minutes to walk across the property. So it's like when you need privacy, you can get privacy. But it's been good, like that living community like that with the boys has been like, you couldn't create a better environment leading up to a fight. It's been the perfect environment that we've needed to shut everybody out and just have the core part of the team there, trying to achieve this momentous feat that we're about to head into.
I know it's kind of like a bit of a cliche question, like, oh, how does fight week feel? But I know that whenever we talk about like CKB and so many fighters on a card, you always kind of describe it as we're going to war. We're going to war. We're going to pillage. We're going to take over. And you've got the NYC takeover top. And this really has been the story of this card, the CKB takeover. It wasn't that long ago that you guys were taking over International Fight Week, and now the MSG card, headlining it the way that you guys are, and then just, filling the rest of the card. What is the mindset for you guys? And does it feel like going to war for you?
Yeah, look, we always have like a kind of like that sort of a theme running throughout our camps where it's we're kind of defending our country, or we're invading another country, or the theme for this camp's kind of like soldiers only, like hide the woman and children type of thing. Like,
yeah, that's why we never made it down there.
Yeah, so we've definitely, I don't know, that's just the thing us Anzacs do. We have that kind of theme, and it feels like that. It feels like we're all the way over here, and I don't know how many people in the viewership have been to New York, but it's completely foreign land. Like, there's nothing about New York, at least the inner city, that even resembles anything that we have back in Australia and New Zealand and back where we're from. So it feels completely foreign. We're in another city, another country, and it feels like we've got to come here and we've got to work against the odds and do something special.
Yeah, no, exactly. And New York itself, just Madison Square Garden, there's really nothing like it anywhere in the world. I wonder, like, obviously you guys have so many fights on this card, and every time you go out there, it's the takeover. But it's also this interesting situation too, where CKB has gotten so famous around the world that, everybody kind of knows it. Like, you guys are one of the most popular teams now out there. And I just wonder, like, as the head coach, like, how do you manage that? Because I imagine that means, everyone wants to be with CKB. Everyone wants to be at the gym with CKB. Everybody is trying to get a piece of CKB everywhere you go. You know what I mean? Because you guys are just so out there and high profile now, compared to back in the day when you guys were actually, on your first UFCs and weren't as well known worldwide. I wonder, how do you sort of maintain that dynamic now on the opposite side of things?
I feel like it's a lot easier to do all the way in New Zealand. Like, we, at the end of the day, we're very close to Antarctica. Like, we're at the bottom of the world. So it's I feel like it's a lot easier in New Zealand, but look, I don't know. We just take it in our stride. We've kind of
you're famous, Huge.
I wouldn't go that far. But you get a little bit conditioned and a little bit used to it and managing it and balancing it out, and you just get better and better at like anything in life. Like that's the only answer that I've kind of got to do. And saying that, like what I feel myself, I feel inclined to do less media and of late, and just do more actual work and life.
Of course, you don't mean that with us. With us, will always come on, but it's the other. There's other media.
Yeah.
Much to our sadness when we're trying to get Huge on. Sorry, busy with the boy. What made you want to? What made you want to make that decision, Huge? What was the turning point?
I just think for this camp, we just needed to just shut up and put our head down and work, and we just didn't need to do any media, and we didn't need to have any distractions even in the slightest. And I just felt that also the rest of the world didn't need to know what we were doing and how camp was going and if things were tracking, and we just needed none of that. We just needed to work a little bit more in an environment like we used to work in, where no one cared. And we just needed to just work under that environment, and we needed to be reminded that, there was a time when no one cared, and at the end of the day, there will be another time when no one cares. So let's just put our head down and what we do best.
That's really smart, because we've seen some teams blow up to epic proportions like your one, and then a lot of things go crazy, like distractions, coaches doing this, fighters doing that, people wanting photos, people interacting stuff. So it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I want to talk about this card as well from the perspective of, I suppose there's a lot on the line. And I'm not saying that there's not a lot on the line every time you guys do a card or a takeover, but just looking at the card and the theme of the card, you've got Brad coming in here. He's got a couple of losses. There's a lot here on the line for Brad. Dan Hooker is making his return to 155. He's obviously got an incredible legacy in the sport, but this is a big, big fight for him. And Israel is, of course, taking on Alex. And even though, he's the world champion and stuff like that, there's this, narrative and this history between them two. So I wonder, how would you describe the theme of this camp with what's on the line here in New York?
This is a big one. This is one of the biggest ones yet. And it's funny that, everyone's the biggest one, but this one literally is the biggest one. And a lot of it's got to do with the reasons that you said. Brad's coming off 2 losses. Dan's coming off losses. Carlos has just started a new contract. And to start his new contract, he's got a real good, maybe a fighter that is flying under the radar a little bit, but we've studied him diligently, and he is very, very good opponent for Carlos. And then obviously he's going to fight one of the best strikers in the world. So, we've definitely, or as coaches and as a team, we have felt the pressure, but we feel the pressure every time. What makes us good at what we do, and some would say amongst the best at what we do, is that we know how to turn that pressure into something else. And we've felt the pressure, the weight of that pressure, and we've used it in a positive manner. That's what athletes and teams at this level do. And there's been a lot of extra pressure that we've felt compared to other fight nights, but we've embraced it and used it.
Yeah, well, I know you were on Ariel's show. You guys had a great interview, and you revealed how sort of halfway through the camp, you guys kind of switched stuff up to avoid complacency. If a sparring session needs to go for an hour, it goes for an hour. If something needs to happen, it has to happen. If you want to see a bit more effort from the boys throughout the camp, if you need to see this, if you need to see that, it goes on until you see it. And I wonder, when in that camp you made that decision, was a lot of that based on the fact that you knew the stakes that were on the line for some of the guys in the camp, and how much basically how important it is to basically have one of the best camps of all time going into this card. And I mean, and every time it's important to have it feels like this one, just like you mentioned, just a lot of stakes on the line.
I mean, you're exactly right. I felt that this one is a big one because of the background of some of these fights. Brad coming off losses, Dan, Carlos, everything I said, I just felt the stakes were high, and I just wanted something different out of the camp. And I feel like I don't want people to get misconstrued with what me and the coaches wanted. You always get effort. How these guys are the best in the world is because they give 100% effort every time. It wasn't effort. That's not the kind of complacency that I was talking about. It was execution. Execution of the game plan and their performances. Everybody at this level gets effort. That's so easy. Effort's the easiest thing. But when you come into the gym with the right mindset, win your sparring rounds, win your scrambles, get up from the bottom, win every minute, win every second, execute what we want you to do, what we just practiced for the last 5 or 6 weeks. Let's execute it. And to do that, you've got to come in the wrong with the right mindset when you enter the gym. It wasn't a problem with effort. It was more of a problem with execution. And so we weren't getting that execution early in the camp, and we decided to put our foot down, and that's what we did. And and at the end of the day, we got the desired result. So we feel that the approach that we used worked.
Well, I guess that's the most important thing, right? Like it's one thing to have the approach, but it's another thing for it to work. So that's phenomenal to hear. Dan Hooker obviously joined us last week and was incredibly candid in his interview. It was a real pleasure listening to him talk about his career, the holes that he felt were in his game, and what he needed to do. But also, there was a moment where he spoke about the team, and he's like, "I thought I could do it myself. I can't do it myself." And he said, I took the team, I took the boys for granted," which was just like a level of honesty that you often don't hear. And this is like Dan's first proper camp with everybody and with the team and, fighting with the whole team in quite a long time. How important would you say it has been for you to, specifically work with Dan as well and just kind of reset and go, hey, what's going on here? What went wrong? And what do we need to do here?
Look, very, very, very important. And look, I felt Dan he's a very important part of our team, and he always has been. But maybe what he's alluding to is we just didn't have his full buy-in. We didn't have his full buy-in. He was 90% with the team, but there was that extra 10% where he was a rogue. He was a rogue, and he'd make decisions to take fights that I said he shouldn't take. And he would do different things in training with his training that the coaches said that we don't think you should go that way. He was the one guy that often showed a little bit of resistance and a little bit of stubbornness and didn't give us his full buy-in. And I think what he's alluding to is just now he kind of understands a little bit more that, that 10%, where you go rogue, that means everything. That makes a difference. It can make a difference. It can make a huge difference. So, I mean, that's what I think he's alluded to. And it's very important that we have Dan's full buy-in and that he goes into this camp. Look, I honestly think, Dan's ready to show you guys something special. I never like to talk about the fight nights too much and what we've got planned. But, Dan's a special athlete, special person, and I feel like he's a guy that needs a big occasion to rise, and it doesn't get any bigger than UFC 281 in the middle of New York at MSG, and he's the type of fighter that will rise to the occasion. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's crazy because looking back on everything that Dan's done for MMA in New Zealand, his incredible career in the UFC, the fact, he's the team captain. I just want, what does he mean to you personally, Huge? And being in this position right now where you're able to sort of activate the second phase in his career in New York this weekend?
Dan's someone that I respected before I knew him. That me and Dan became very close friends. And Dan's also the person who first put my foot in the door into this whole UFC thing. Obviously, we have a lot of talent in New Zealand, but he helped me get my foot in the door. He was the first UFC fight I ever cornered, was Dan, and I'm forever grateful for that. And then he helped pave the way for some of the other guys that are now in our team right now. And you can never take that away from Dan, and you only have to be forever grateful of that. Dan will always have a special place in my heart for those reasons. And for those reasons, I try and give Dan as much of myself as I can, and all the coaches do the same. So, he's what you call a UFC veteran at this stage in his career. We just need to get this win. It's so important to Dan and to all of us to get this win from him.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know what it is about Dan Hooker. Maybe it's just like his honesty. But he's obviously very endearing, and just the way that he is, you can't help but just wish the best and want the best for him. So I'm very excited to see him this weekend at UFC 281. Before we talk about Israel versus Alex, super quickly, obviously the Anzac takeover isn't the only takeover this weekend. You got Manscaped taking over Australia just in time for the holidays with their life-changing hygiene products. They're all now available in Woolworths, Australia, retail stores all over the country. Never forget gifting Manscaped, the ultimate hack to becoming the family favorite with their phenomenal products that we use day in, day out. Personal grooming devices, pound for pound, greatest grooming tool in the lawnmower. And you can also get, if you're looking at gifts, the Platinum Package 4.0, the best value deal yet, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Ultra Premium Body Wash, Ultra Premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, Ultra Premium deodorant, Crop Preserver Anti-Shaving Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver Ball Spray Toner, and free gifts including the boxes and shed travel bag. Dude, who wouldn't be happy receiving that this holiday season? Is that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. Get 20% off and free shipping when you use the code word submission now at Manscaped, and get this Christmas presents ready, wrapped up, and ready to go this holiday season. And guys, with the big card just around the corner, there's only one place to go to make your money, and that is with our friends at MyBookie. You guys could check out some of the odds at mybookie.ag right now. But you got Michael Chandler at plus 173 versus Dustin Poirier minus 227. I wonder which way you guys will be leaning in this one. A lot of other great fights as well, but what about that main event? Alex Pereira plus 166. Israel Adesanya minus 217. I wonder which way will you guys be leaning, but I'm going to sweeten it a little bit, because if you use the code word submission, you guys get 100% match deposit all the way up to dollar for dollar, up to $1,000. Use that code word submission right now at MyBookie and make that money this weekend.
That's right. Also save some money. I know you're going to be doing a whole bunch of streaming this coming weekend on the spicy websites and all sorts of streaming. Make sure you're protected when you do that with NordVPN. Protect all your data, especially from your internet service provider and anybody who might be trying to steal your details. But also with a VPN, you can get products cheaper just by changing your geolocation. The same gifts, the same flights, the same pay-per-views, all sorts of things are different prices depending on which country your computer thinks you are in. And with NordVPN, with one touch of a button, you can do exactly that. Perfect example, Dennis with the NBA League Pass didn't want to pay full price, didn't want to pay the Australian rates, switched it to like Philippines or something. Bang, instantly cheap. It works with streaming services, works with a whole bunch of things. NordVPN, number one pound for pound VPN. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. You can get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 months free if you go to nordvpn.com/submission or click the link in the description below, and it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, one of the best apps in the business. Make sure you try Nord today and change your life for the better.
There you go. With that, all said and done, looking at Israel heading into this one, though, and sort of going into the backstory. I've been impressed with Israel's attitude, like his mentality going into this one, talking very openly about the knockout loss, and he just doesn't seem to be carrying any of that emotional baggage that you would assume that he would. And even just the way he talks about the fight, he's like, this could happen, or he might catch me, or this and that. Again, it's that level of candor that sometimes is missing from fighters. I like to see it. But obviously in 2017, like, you made him take a year off after that knockout loss. I find that fascinating. Take us into that. And how did you sort of get him back on track afterwards? Did you have to at all?
I withheld him for so long that it wasn't easy to get him back on track. He trained the whole time. I just didn't want him to fight. Maybe that knockout haunted me a lot, but I was there. I saw the whole thing happen, and it's still vividly in my memory. He hit that canvas hard, and he was properly knocked out. And I just know from my experience that you need more than a month. You need more than 30 days to properly recover from that. And I know that, more head trauma in close succession with that was going to be devastating for his career. And so at that stage in his career, and this is why I mentioned I had to lie a little bit, I felt it was just better for him to have a long rest and let all the amazing things happen with the brain and the body that are way over my head, but let those things happen. And I'm sure there's some people that would say that a year is probably not enough, but it was just shy of a year.
So when you say it was hard getting back on track, what do you mean by that?
No, it wasn't hard getting back on track.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
No, because he was itching to go. He wanted to keep asking me for a fight. And although I could have easily got him a fight, with one phone call, I just had to tell, for his own benefit, I had to say, there's no fights available, brother. You're just going to have to train and get better and concentrate your effort on training and acquiring new skills and working on old skills. Like, let's concentrate on that and not focus so much on which fights around the corner. And I remember that year vividly, and I remember that I did, I had to lie to him, but it was for his own benefit.
It's amazing how, like, that was quite a while ago, and yet you still remember it so vividly. I wonder, like, how much. I imagine it was probably ingrained in the CKB style already, but I wonder how much something like that shapes the CKB style and also just your mentality in general, especially how now, right, like, there's this criticism on Israel about people saying, oh, his fight wasn't exciting as I wanted it to be, et cetera, et cetera. People will bring up, like, the Jared Cannonier fight or the Romero fight, kind of forgetting a little bit about some of the amazing highlights and the technical aspects. And I wonder if, like, this is one of the reasons you said to us last time, like, you look at, say, the Gaethjes and the Chandlers, right, having an insane fight of the night. You talk about, people having those kind of fights. Look at where they are in 10 or 20 years mentally. So I wonder how much that knockout sort of, I don't know, shaped CKB or shaped your mindset as a coach.
I don't think it. I don't think it had too much of impact. I think we've always been interested in basically the art of fighting, which is the art of like hitting and not being hit. I think that's always been the basis of what we teach. What was more important for us is that we did have a young one of our close men, Israel's close friends, pass away from head trauma. That probably made us double down on the approach that you should probably hit and not get hit. But the fact of the matter is, like, in this sport, you get hit as well. You get hit. You can't have a perfect fight where you don't get hit. So, like, I don't have too much to say about, like, we fight. We fight how we fight. This team has given the UFC and the fans in the UFC some of the best fights in the history of the sport. And there's so many of them. in one very, very small team. And we've given them so many good fights. We can't just go out there and slang and bang like every time we go out and fight. It just can't be done. Like that's not what we're trying to do. We are not here to make it a bloodbath every time. At the end of the day, we're here to win, and we will try and win in the most exciting fashion possible. And like I'm unapologetic, really. Like we try and do our best. That's what we do. But look at the history of my fighters and the team, and we have given you guys some of the best fighters, some of the best fights in this sport. And Israel's no different. If Israel's the thing is, like, people are very quick to forget that Israel's not the only one in those damn fights. There's someone else in there too. Mm-hmm. And Israel has a history of making people who overcommit and be reckless pay. There's a history of it. And in fact, that's his niche. That's what he does best. So if you want to talk about, Israel, not being exciting, I think you need to talk about more about what's going through the mindset of the people that he's fighting.
I also wonder, Eugene, I know you mentioned how you remember that knockout in 2017, how it was kind of like haunting because of the way, Israel fell down and sort of hit his head on the canvas. And it's a tough sort of memory to think about. So I just want to get from your perspective, like, how does it feel to actually be fighting Alex this weekend at Madison Square Garden in this fight? I know that Israel's handled it really, really well. He's brought up the knockout. He's talked about all the possibilities. It doesn't seem like it's really bothering him too much, but I wonder, like, mentally for yourself, how do you feel about being back in front of Alex, him now sort of trying to challenge you guys for the belt and being back in the ring with him? And I wonder, is it almost a sense of, okay, like, we're going to go out there, we're going to beat this guy and finally get the W that we deserved all these years ago when we fought him in kickboxing, where it was pretty clear that Israel beat him initially and Israel was dominating him in that second fight until he got caught? Or is it a situation where you're like, there's that knockout and it kind of replays in the back of your mind as you go in there? I just wonder what kind of mindset you go into this one with, because it's always interesting when you fight someone 3 times.
Yeah, well, look, like I said, you can't. You have to look at those fights in their entirety, and you, in a very big way, have to be very careful. We have to be very careful that we erase the memory of those fights. And what I mean by that is not the memory of that loss, because that's just Israel. That's just Israel making a small mistake for a split second. It's the story of those fights is that Israel was handily the first fight. Maybe not in the first fight. The first fight was close, but we felt Israel won that fight and was doing it like relatively comfortably. And the second fight, he was winning very easily. We have to erase that, because the last thing that we can do is look at those fights and be like, well, we were beating him relatively easy last time, so what do we have to do this time? But the fact of the matter is that those fights were a very long time ago. So what we've concentrated on is what improvements Alex has made since those 2 fights. And we've throughout our analysis, we've seen a lot of improvement since then. So we are, when we put together this fight, we are completely erasing those fights, not because Israel lost, because Israel dominated those fights. That's why we have to erase them, and we have to account for the massive amount of improvement that Alex Pereira has made since those fights. And that's what we're basing everything on.
This thing that Israel mentioned in his interview that he knows about Alex going to the fight, almost like, I know something you guys don't. How substantial is it in sort of the game plan that you guys have for the fight? When did you guys realize it as a team?
No, that's got nothing to do with me, brother.
You're not even aware of it?
No. that's something I don't know either. So not only do you guys not know, but I don't know either. So he knows something that you don't know, or I know. I don't know either. Because I don't actually know what he's alluding to, like, in all seriousness.
Well, there's a secret out there, Eugene, and we intend to find out what it is. Now, kidding. Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, obviously with this fight, Alex, we imagine it's going to be on the feet, but I saw Israel was doing an interview with his brother David, and he almost joked about how he's like, maybe Alex will try to take me down. Like, he was kind of laughing about it and joking. And then, of course, a lot of people are also wondering, with Alex being so new to MMA, if you guys are going to utilize some, maybe even a takedown yourself, or go for a submission, or utilize the cage a bit more, and maybe use the clinch a bit more up against the cage, and utilize Israel's experience in the grappling there too. So I wonder, for those people who think it's going to be a stand-up battle and basically a kickboxing match with MMA gloves, what is your take on what you see mentally in terms of how this fight goes down, without obviously revealing all of your game plans?
I mean, look, the benefit of being so far ahead of the rest of the field in a particular skill set is you can concentrate your effort on another really narrow skill set. And what I'm meaning is, like, obviously when Israel got into the UFC, he was so good at stand-up, he could divert a lot of his time into his wall defense and wrestling defense, because he already was very, very good at stand-up. Well, Alex essentially has the same issue. It's not really an issue, it's a positive thing, right? Alex is so far ahead of everybody else in this field at stand-up. He can concentrate all his efforts on things like takedown defense and wall defense and all of that. So you get this massive concentrated effort that the rest of that your other opponents aren't able to do, because they've got to spread their time more evenly. What it means is you become very good at one thing. So, like, I just think that is the benefit of these elite strikers coming into MMA, is that they can concentrate their effort on takedown defense. So I don't think Israel's going to have an easy time taking Pereira down, nor do I think if Pereira decides to switch the game plan, which would be smart, from a stand-up battle to a takedown, nor do I think Pereira is going to have a very easy time getting Israel down. So I mean, the way I see it is, I think this will probably just be a stand-up battle.
I think that's what makes it so exciting for people, but also why it's going to be so tense as well, given the history of the success that both men have. It's just got that fight feel about it. We'll let you go in a second, Huge. I know that we may not get you for quite a while, so I just have to ask you. Look, this is you got such a tall task ahead, and we are in no way overlooking it. But obviously, in MMA, it's always about what's next. I am curious though, like, you have a big input on choosing which fights happen and which ones don't. When you look at the lay of the land, there's a few people I want to ask you about. Do you see, what would you think would be ideally next for Israel? We had Dan Hardy yesterday saying, hey man, Yuri Prohaska would be phenomenal at 205. I know people think, hey man, if Hamzat went to middleweight, that would be a really exciting one. People are wondering, will Robert Whittaker ever claw his way back up to a third fight? I'm curious, your take on all of those.
Yuri Prohaska. That hasn't. So basically, the three things you chose hasn't even crossed my mind. But then saying that, I don't think I've even thought ahead that much. Yeah. Look, this is going to be a boring answer, but I've been so narrowly focused on this. I've been so narrowly focused on this event. I haven't really. What about Yuri Prohaska or Leon Edwards? What about that?
What do you mean Leon Edwards? Israel versus Leon Edwards?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know.
Is this troll huge coming back out for the chat group?
Nah, look, imagine if you could go down and we could consolidate all those bouts under one management group, a timepiece management. We could get the light heavyweight bout, and then we could get the welterweight bout consolidated.
Just take everything from Paradigm. Just take everything from Paradigm.
Then what do you reckon?
That's why it threw me, because I thought Israel and
boys are Paradigm, and us.
I thought Leon and Israel were boys. That's why it threw me. And then also, same management, all Paradigm.
Look, I suppose, look, I think the WhatsApp group's going to get a good laugh out of that answer. And, we enjoy it too, huge. So, hey, just quickly, I know Casper said we've kind of held you here for a little bit, but I just want to quickly get your thoughts, because I know you're going to go on holiday after this. This Alex Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev fight, I just want to quickly gauge your thoughts on this. It looks like things are coming together. Islam is saying, hey, I want to sign this contract. It might not be for Perth. It might be in March in Las Vegas. I just want to get your thoughts. I know that you might not be dealing with this specifically because you're getting the team ready for New York. But do you see this as kind of like mental games, perhaps games from Islam's team about this fight potentially not happening in Perth, or maybe them trying to move it from Perth to a more neutral ground because they've realized how far Australia is and how it's, Alex's home crowd there?
What are they saying? They won it in Vegas? As far
well, he's saying
no. So Islam's saying, I don't care if I fight in Perth or in Vegas in March, but I don't know if that's necessarily to say that this would be the fight that he'd be having in March. I think maybe I don't know. He's alluding to the UFC maybe not wanting this fight. Do you think it happens?
Yeah, but they I mean, there's I could only speculate on this, but they don't. Sometimes I don't think they control their Twitter, right? They got a manager that who controls their Twitter and who likes to take control of their Twitter. So
100%.
So like, I don't know. Maybe it's him manipulating stuff behind the scene, but Perth. As far as I know, as far as I know, everything's heading towards Perth, and heading towards that opponent. And like I said on record, I thought we could. When we had our team meeting, I was like, I think there's still some guys to clear out at featherweight, and there'd be no harm in doing that before you went up to 55 and fought Islam. He can make a defense, we can make another defense, and then we meet together. But that's not what Alex wants. Alex wants to fight now. He wants to fight in Perth. He wants the big show. So once the decision's made, like, everybody's on board, baby. So let's do it. Let's get in there.
I know at one point we spoke about Volk at 155 and without the weight cut, and you said, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. Volk is so strong, he's so powerful regardless. I think he's going to be just as good. But the narrative for this fight is like, Islam's so big, Islam's so strong. Oh, Volk is smaller, etc. I just wonder, from your perspective, for anybody buying into that narrative, what do you think is, I guess, going to be the biggest surprise when they see Volko perform?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. Volk's one of the fighters that you have all these different ideas about, but if you look at all his opponents, when you actually get in there and then when you come out, you have a completely different idea of what you're in against. And to be honest, I think Makhachev does the same thing. I think Makhachev, you prepare for him and you see what he does on film. And then when you get in there, it's actually a lot different and a lot more difficult than a lot of his opponents have thought. I just think, look, this is a tough. It's going to be a tough fight. Moving up in weight is tough, but then you got to fight a guy who is so supremely good at one particular aspect of the sport, and it's just an incredibly tough fight, and luckily we've got an incredibly tough fighter to take on the task. And look, I'm looking forward to the challenge. I think when you fight someone like that, when you fight a Damian Maia or an Israel Adesanya or Islam Makhachev, where they're just so good at one particular thing and no one's been able to stop it, I think that challenge is so exciting. You have to lift for it. So our team's looking forward to it.
And in a way as well, it's, Khabib getting on the mic saying they want to come for that pound for pound spot in Perth, and coming all the way down to Australia. It's kind of like they got their own little takeover that they're trying to sort of organize over there in Perth. So I wonder if that's an interesting perspective.
Not how the pound for pound works, right? The pound for pound has traditionally always been what's meant to be decided by the people. The people decide who the pound for pound best fighter in the world is, and it's exactly what you mean. It's you have to have the best pound for pound skills across the board to warrant that title. That's why Volko's the pound for pound, I believe, is because he can wrestle, he can take you down, he can push you against the cage, he can scramble, he can do all these things, just as to a very high level. And that's what makes him pound for pound. It's what made GSP pound for pound as well. I believe that is a true pound for pound fighter. You have to be, your skill set has to be at the highest level across the board. So that's why Volko has got that position. I don't necessarily mean because someone's gonna beat Volko that you just automatically get that position. That's not how the pound for pound rankings swap. That's decided by the people. Given that they're actually the UFC decides the pound for pound, but that's a bit of a rort.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we wrap, Huge, got to find out from you, because you told us you're going on a holiday. I don't believe it. I can't imagine Eugene Bareman taking time off. Where are you going? What is the plan? Will you be wearing a Hawaiian shirt? Will the feed be up on the cooler somewhere? Will you have a beer in your hand? What does that look like?
I'm not going on holiday. I just didn't want to do the interview after the fight.
Yes. Another secret revealed. So.
I'm going straight back to the gym, boys. On Monday, I'll be there. But I wanted to go. I would rather, look, this is fight week. Let's bang out all the media. And then when I get home, I'm just in peace and go into the bush, go for a hunt or something.
You'll be in the airport getting messages from us. Can't wait for it. But in the meantime, UFC 281 right around the corner, and one of the most historic cards in the books. Right there, Eugene Bareman, of course. Follow CKB on social media for all the latest updates to the team, and make sure to visit them in Auckland if you're ever around. Eugene, thank you so much for coming on, man. It means a lot to us. I know it's a big task ahead, so this time it's a real honor for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, boys. Thank you. Another great one. Cheers.